Alright guys, thanks for staying with me this long. This is the last little video I'm going to do for you, and it's all about the audience pleasures of the Inbetweeners. In the last video for Outnumbered, I gave you 3 different audience pleasures. I'm going to give you a few more here. They're just for you to choose from though, okay? Like I said, you probably will only need to discuss 3 audience pleasures if you're writing about one program, and just a couple if you're comparing them, okay? They're just for you to choose from, all right? So, first off, one that everybody should write about. So number 1, taboo, okay? Taboo issues are confronted in the Inbetweeners, and the reason that this is funny and a pleasure for the audience is because it creates this kind of awkward humour where you're not sure if you're supposed to kind of laugh or be disgusted at what's happening. An example of this happening, remember you have to back up with examples. So an example would be on the field trip episode when Neil is woken up by his teacher, and clearly there's some sort of paedophilia feelings going on, okay? Obviously creating this kind of awkward humour where you're not sure whether you're supposed to laugh or kind of be like disgusted and think, oh my god, what is going on, okay? So taboo issues, number 1, Neil being touched up by a paedophile teacher, okay? Number 2, again, I think you should write about this because it's quite easy to write about, okay? You've got slapstick comedy, okay? Physical humour, basically, is what slapstick comedy is all about. Very, very simple audience pleasure because it doesn't require any thought to laugh about. All right, it's just funny, okay? An example of this, again, on the field trip episode, Neil punching that fish to death on the boat, okay? Clearly, slapstick humour ends up being very, very funny for the audience, okay? Number 3, okay, 3rd audience pleasure, you've got the rude language that the characters use, in particular Jay's character, okay? The reason why this is an audience pleasure is simply because it reflects the kind of language that young people watching the show would be using, okay? If you wanted to give an example of this, okay, I suggest you don't really swear in the exam, but you could use words that Jay actually kind of creates himself. So for example, that word he uses, clunge, okay? Oh, feels weird to say that, but you could use that as an example of a rude language that they use, which is a pleasure for the audience because it reflects the way that young people maybe who are watching maybe speak, okay? Number 4, familiarity with events, what happens, okay? That's obviously pleasurable for the audience because they can relate to what happens. So if you wanted to back that up with an example, we could again go back to the field trip episode, okay? And you could say that lots of people watching have been on a school trip of some sort, okay? So they're familiar with what happens and therefore they enjoy what they're seeing much more. Okay, and that leads me on to number 5, because we're going to talk about the field trip episode again for narrative resolution. Remember from the Outnumbered video, narrative resolution is a pleasure for the audience because everything is tied up within that 30-minute period of when they're watching. They don't have to wait for what happens next, and it's just comfortable viewing for them, okay? So in terms of a field trip episode, all right, they start off and they're kind of excited about going away because they think it's maybe their best chance to finally meet some girls, okay? That all goes horribly wrong. They certainly don't impress any girls, and it ends up with them embarrassing themselves. Simon falls into the sea, and they all end up coming back in, and the whole class or the whole school on that trip are laughing at them, okay? And they're just as uncool as they were before, and they're going back home the same kind of losery in-betweeners that they once started out as, okay? So we're familiar with that kind of character, and that's a nice resolution for the audience, because we always expect them to go back to that kind of character. Okay, so there you got 5 different audience pleasures there for the in-betweeners. Now, like I said before, you don't need to write about every single one of them in the exam. I always suggest you write about a maximum of 3. Okay, I gave you 5 just so that you can choose which ones you feel best and most comfortable about writing. Okay, I've gone through them quite quickly, so obviously go back and rewind the video and pause it and whatever you need to in order to fully understand them. Okay, please make sure though that you back up your points that you make about any audience pleasures with examples. If you don't do that, you're not going to get anywhere near the full 15 marks, and it will be capped out at around 7 marks if you don't give any examples. Okay. Alright, that's the end of the videos that I'm going to do for Outnumbered and In-Betweeners. We've gone through scheduling issues for both, and we've gone through audience pleasures for both. Okay, I've put example questions in the description for all the videos. Okay, so now that you've had me going on at you like this, hopefully it's gone in, and what I suggest you do is you write some practice questions, okay, practice answers, and I'll be more than happy to mark them for you. I can do that if you grab me at school or just email me, okay, your answers. Good luck, I hope this has been useful. Happy revising, guys. Alright, see you later.